Hello and welcome to the Forge Alliance Forevercast. I'll be your host, Swkoll, and today we're looking at Game 2 of the Adjux versus Blackheart series. In the previous game, Blackheart managed to defeat Adjux after a very long and prolonged battle on pizza. And now, down one game, Adjux and Blackheart are now on White Fire. A very common map. I do like it quite a bit, and we're already seeing the first differences between these two players as Adjux has gone for that early air factory, where Blackheart has started off with an early land factory. Blackheart's obviously saying that he probably wants to do some harassment with T1 artillery early on, where Adjux will be going for a heavier air play. So, these players just getting started as Adjux will be slightly slower to the reclaim than Blackheart. As we can see, Blackheart already getting a lot of that mass with 6 pigeons already constructed. Meanwhile, Adjux has 4 pigeons, but he got that early air factory and is now sending his NGs to get the hydrocarbon quite quickly, and will be going for a very early naval factory. This is a bit surprising. What this says to me is that he wants to get a frigate out very quickly to either deny Blackheart's naval production or to block engineers trying to get to this reclaim, which doesn't always work because sometimes players will send their ACU across like this. It's more likely that they'll send it this way than most other ways, but I wouldn't confine Blackheart to doing what is typically done. I'm sure we'll see something crazy from him as Blackheart successfully constructs his naval factory. Slightly behind Adjux, as Adjux is going to start working on his 3rd air factory soon, while Blackheart is just about starting some land factories. Obviously determined to go for some heavy artillery, and both players playing extremely passively early on, which is sort of what you have to do on this map. I mean, Adjux, now at 4-ish minutes in, will be sending his frigate across. We'll see an early air battle. I don't know if we can call it an air battle, it's just Adjux scouting interceptor gets killed. And this frigate does pick up an early engineer kill, which should delay Blackheart's radar a little bit. But Adjux with 3 frigates out already, definitely looking to control this, and this reclaiming NG will be spotted by the frigate and taken out. We got a small amount of the reclaim there. Blackheart has to be careful, although Blackheart has the same idea and will be sending his frigate to go not kill this engineer and instead... Oh wait, it's turning around. But Adjux able to get a bit more of that reclaim, and his ACU is right there, while Blackheart's ACU is slightly further away. Meanwhile, Adjux frigate, a bit of harassment, forcing a torpedo defense and submarines. And a frigate kill. Meanwhile, bombers coming out from both of these players. Looks like Adjux's bomber whipped on the first pass. It looks like it's just targeting this mechs. Not a brilliant target. Let's see if Blackheart's bomber can do something better. He's microing it, and target is this mass extractor. And it looks like Adjux will start his arty spam on the forward island, as opposed to Blackheart putting it a bit further behind. Adjux's bomber being very successful at taking out mass extractors, but surprisingly so. And in fact, Adjux has a pretty solid mass gain over Blackheart. The Blackheart now dropping the side island. The side expansion, I guess, and preventing any sort of harassment here. Meanwhile, in other early air fights, looks like Adjux will take early air dominance and early naval dominance as frigates are surrounding this island, allowing the artillery to go up and kill this hydro, along with radars, and prevent all these mass extractors from falling into the hands of Blackheart, which is a pretty big deal. Though Blackheart has a fleet of 3 submarines and an early T2 naval factory, already a third of the way done on a destroyer, but Adjux, also with the early, I wouldn't say early, but timely T2 navy, is going to get a destroyer of his own. Meanwhile, looks like the Arty's trying to roll over and attack the naval factory. Just do a bit of prodding here and there. Adjux has no submarines, so these subs will be able to slowly tickle Adjux's frigates to death. At this point, we never saw any aggressive drops from these players, at least so far. A really nice thing that players will sometimes do is you will drop the opposing expansion and then sort of land spam this way. But it looks like Adjux planning an arty drop. We'll have to see where that goes. Looks like he plans to drop directly behind Blackheart's base, going directly in the power. Will be scouted out by the frigates, and an NG drop. Adjux will, of course, spot that, but not a lot of AA from Blackheart. Just has these destroyers, and it will mean a successful drop from this T2 transport full of T1 artillery. Blackheart needs to respond now. His ACU is way over here. He can't deal with that. He's going to have to start all these factories producing tanks as quickly as possible. He's already losing a T2 max destroyer providing supporting fire. It looks like it will just barely be cleaned up after forcing a lot of tanks. He loses 2 T2 mexes, giving Adjux in that lead. Definitely a cost-effective drop. Adjux just going to go ahead and deny air production for a bit before getting out. Can't fly over static AA for forever. But a second arty drop coming out from Adjux. Is this a new transport? No, it isn't. It looks like the same transport, and it's very low health. Dropping its arty at 60 HP will not make it back. The arty were successfully dropped. Looks like Blackheart positioned some tanks here preemptively. He'll be able to take out that hydro, which Blackheart kind of needs. He's going to power stall soon unless he does something. Looks like ACU being brought back home. At least immediately losing more mass extractors. And Blackheart sort of able to push back Adjux's naval aggression, reaching a bit of parity here as both players can't really push in. Well, it looks like Blackheart will force his way to try to assault the main island. Torpedo bombers coming out from Adjux, feeling quite threatened, or at least wants to use his air advantage to impact this navy, which doesn't have any cruisers in it. I mean, you can't afford a cruiser in a navy of this size unless you're taking substantial damage. Torpedo bombers being brought in. If Adjux can secure a victory here, that would be huge. Looks like the artillery being brought in from Adjux. The destroyer count is starting to favor Blackheart, at least until this other destroyer comes in. Looks like Blackheart submerging his destroyers. That doesn't mean the torpedo bombers can't go after them. Looks like a cruiser from Blackheart finally will make an appearance. as the ecos are starting to even up. It's like Blackheart has invested significantly into getting them. But what's huge is these two engineers right here can't be targeted by the torpedoes because they're floating, and they should be able to get tons of mass for Adjutant. We're going to reclaim already 14,000, versus Blackheart's 19,000, which was from all this early aggression, these naval wrecks and the mass wrecks. But now the cruisers here, so torpedo bombers won't be as effective. But that will net Adjutant a destroyer lead. Up to 4 destroyers versus Blackheart's 3 destroyers and 2 cruisers. Looks like this cruiser will be placed defensively, stopping any drops or harassment or anything like that. Although, until Adjutant decides to assault this navy, this cruiser will be able to do good work, along with the destroyers and killing off some of the mechs Adjutant has here. But Adjutant going for another drop. Does Blackheart know? Not sure he does. Just barely hiding it from the scout. Where will it go? Looks like it'll just be kept there temporarily. Actually, no, going directly into the base. That frigate. It's not in a good spot. If it drops here, could kill some upgrading mass extractors from Blackheart, but it will fly directly over the cruiser, and that is a dead transport. Not long for this world. Adjutant trying to keep these torpedo bombers useful, even with all these cruisers flying around. We'll be able to do a good deal of damage to some of these destroyers, bringing them all fairly low. Adjutant will advance, realizing he has a greater destroyer count. Blackheart was forced to construct these cruisers. This is a 34 kill cruiser, though. I'd hardly call it a wasteful move. Blackheart's sitting in the water getting some very cheap upgrade, or he's stalling a lot. He's having a huge mass stall. This is Adjutant's destroyers will just pick off a few frigates. Another round of torpedo bombers coming in. Have to see the target. Looks like the target is no target. Now there go the torpedoes. Managed to target the highest health destroyer. Blackheart doing a very nice job of keeping his cruisers alive, positioning them defensively to protect against drops or aggression or these torpedo bombers. Looks like Blackheart will have to cancel his upgrade in fear of being killed by all these torpedoes. And Adjust with a superior destroyer count is doing great things. Blackheart doesn't have any T3 Navy yet. Blackheart will control K in Game 2 of this best of 5. Adjutant evening up the series 1-1 in a very solid game, getting out the early naval factory and just continually putting on that naval pressure with some nice drops, which definitely set Blackheart back quite a bit when he couldn't respond to them as effectively as he probably would have liked. But anyways, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next few games. Good night.